Hello, and welcome to the Relationship Anxiety Podcast. I'm your host, Ksenia, a certified relationship anxiety life coach, and I am so happy to be here with you guys today. Our topic today is one that I'm hopeful will be really transformational for you. I know that the things that I am going to talk about today are topics that have just really changed my life. But before we get into that, I want to let you know that I'm including a link in the description here to a free consult call. My free consult calls are open. They're 45 minutes long with video off, so it's just audio. And if you have been listening to this podcast and just wondering if I'd be a good fit or if you need coaching, please don't hesitate to just jump on a consult call. I would love to get to know you and see if I can help. So today we are talking about the top things that I have learned about God during OCD recovery. And this topic is really close to my heart. And like I said earlier, it's one that I hope will be really transformational for you, one that will really help you learn about God's character. These are things that I logically maybe knew about God, but over the course of my healing, these are the things that really impacted my heart and that I learned on a totally new level that really healed my relationship with God. All right, the first one is that God is gentle with doubt. And before my anxiety recovery and healing, I thought that God was just a lot more strict and expected me to just kind of know things. I thought that doubt was kind of like a sin. And I really thought that all of the doubts that I had about faith specifically, that God was really disappointed in me and that he was just really kind of strict. I thought that he was like, oh my gosh, Ksenia, get over these doubts. Like, you need to shut them down and just have faith. And what I learned about God during my recovery is that he is really gentle with doubt, that he doesn't shame us for doubt, and that he is a God who understands mental illness. He understands anxiety. He understands that we are humans and that faith can't exist without doubt. And so all of those times when I thought that God wanted me to just get rid of my doubts and have more faith, I realized that choosing faith even when I doubt is even more powerful, right? I thought that God wanted me to have certainty and that having faith and certainty were kind of like the same thing. And when I finally realized that the opposite of faith isn't doubt, the opposite of faith is certainty, that totally changed my understanding of God. I realized that God, throughout Scripture, is so gentle with people who are human and have fear and have doubt. In the Bible, there's a story of a man who brings his son who has a palsy to Jesus. And Jesus says, do you have faith that I can heal him? And the man says, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. And right there, Jesus heals his son. And that honest faith was so powerful, and Jesus was so gentle with it. So that's the first thing that I learned, is that doubt is not something that God is disappointed with. He knows that it's part of being a human, and he is so gentle with it. And is so proud of us when we choose faith, even when, and especially when we have doubt. The next thing I learned about God is maybe the most important. I don't know, all of these are very important, but the next is that God doesn't speak with urgency. A lot of the time growing up, at least for me, growing up in my church culture, I was taught a lot of stories about how people just like listened to this like really urgent voice in their head, and they're so glad they did because someone would have died if they didn't. And stories like that fed my anxiety and my OCD like nothing else. And so I thought that anytime I had like an urgent voice or an urgent thought, that it was God speaking to me and that I needed to listen and that if I didn't, someone would die or something terrible would happen. And I have learned that although those stories are well-meaning, they are the minority. And God does not often speak to us through urgency. In fact, He's eternal. He has all the patience in the world. And He has all the ability to fix things that go wrong, right? And so I learned that God is okay with my faith journey being slow, and for me to learn step by step, little by little, growing my faith from a small seed into a tree. Not overnight, but over days and months and years. And I learned that God, like I said, He is eternal. He has all the time in the world. And because of that, He is so patient and so understanding of us learning little by little. I also learned that those voices in my head that were very urgent and frantic and panicky was anxiety and was not God. I learned that God speaks, at least to me, through more gentle feelings of abundance and fullness and joy, instead of, you need to hurry up and do this, otherwise someone is going to die or you're going to have a terrible life. That's not how God talks. God speaks through, like I said, through gentleness. And once I learned to recognize the OCD voice in my head, it became a lot easier to not listen to it. And it was really scary at first because I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't listen to it, something terrible is going to happen. But thinking that way only reinforced the importance of the thought being there and my brain offering that thought to me. And when I recognized, like, okay, if I don't listen to this thought, God is still going to be there to help me through it. If something terrible does happen because I don't listen to this thought, God is going to be there to help me through it. He's going to be there if I'm sad or heartbroken. He is going to hold me, and He is going to be constant. He's not just going to leave me if I don't listen to this frantic thought. He understands that I'm learning and growing. And that leads me into the third one, which is that I learned that God wants me to create a beautiful life with Him, not just wait for Him to tell me what to do all the time. I learned to view Him more as an actual father instead of a judge or a boss or someone who is just like micromanaging me. Because when I really think about it, if I don't have kids yet, but when I do, I imagine my kids waking up and we have a full day ahead of us. And how on one hand, I could tell my kid exactly what we're going to do for the whole day. I could be like, okay, we're going to eat breakfast and then we're going to go to the park, whether or not you like it. And then we're going to color for 30 minutes. And then we're going to go to the museum. And then we're going to do this and this and this and this. And that is the way it's going to be today. Or how much more fun and joyful would it be for me as a parent to ask my kid what they want to do that day? Be like, okay, what do you want to do? And I will go with you and I'll help you create it and I'll help you make it happen. Oh, you want to create this craft today. You want to learn how to build a model airplane. Okay, so cool. Let me look up what kind of paper we need, or let me find a kit for you. And then I'll sit down and we'll read the directions together and we'll learn how to create this airplane together. And how much more joyful it would be for me as a mom to watch my kid learning and growing and creating the things that just light them up than telling them exactly what they need to do all day. And I think that God is so much more of that second parent, where He wants to know what lights us up and what brings us joy, and then He wants to help us create that. I also think that sometimes when we want God to tell us exactly what to do, it's because we are afraid. And if something goes wrong, we want to be able to blame God for it. We don't want it to be our fault. So we say, well, if something went wrong, well, it was God's will. And God wanted me to, so it's fine. Instead of saying yeah, something went wrong because I made that choice. That's a lot harder for us to handle. But I think that that is where God steps in again and sits with us in the hard that sometimes happens when we're choosing things, right? He sits with us in the hard of building the paper airplane. Now, your brain might say like, okay, but God gave us commandments and he has very specific ways that we need to live. And while that is true that God has given us commandments, I believe that while we are within the structure of those commandments, he wants to create beautiful things with us, whatever we want to create most of the time, right? But within the structure of what he has commanded us, right? Don't kill, don't steal, love the people around you, honor your father and mother. Within the structure of the commandments he has given us, we have the space to create beautiful things with him. Okay, the fourth thing I learned is, and this is something that you can study more, I learned about stages of faith models. I used to really get scared when I doubted my faith, or when I wondered if God wasn't real, or when I was really deconstructing some of the character traits that I had given God my whole life. I felt a lot of fear. And I started learning about these different models of stages of faith. And I learned that deconstructing and reconstructing your faith is actually very normal in the developmental process of spirituality. It's not something we talk about a ton, but children learn in black and white, right? That's just part of their development. They aren't very good at holding space between black and white thinking. And so a lot of us learn our spirituality when we're young. We hold it from this very black and white viewpoint. And as we grow up and get older and things become more complicated, we have to learn how to deconstruct that childlike faith and reconstruct it into something stronger. And so learning about different stages of faith and the developmental process of spirituality was really helpful for me. So I would recommend looking at Fowler and his stages of faith. I think that's the number one that was helpful. But you can also look up different stages of spiritual development. And that really helped me understand what was going on. Okay, the last one. This is my very favorite. I learned that God doesn't need me to be perfect before I approach him. And this is something that I logically knew before. I was like, yeah, obviously God doesn't need me to be perfect. But I still acted like I had to be perfect before I could ask God for help. And through the process of my recovery, I learned that God just wants a relationship with us. He wants to be close to us. He wants to be in the messiness. I want to share a post by David Butler about this idea of God being in the messiness and wanting just a relationship with us. And if I cry, I'm so sorry. But this is all about Jesus washing his disciples' feet. Okay, it says, I wouldn't want Jesus to do that either. It was his last night. People are usually pretty particular about how they spend their lasts, save the best and all. It should have been a night of honoring him, of kneeling before the feet of their king, but instead he kneels at theirs. And Peter won't have it. He didn't want Jesus to wash his feet, and neither would I. Part of Peter's refusal must have been in honor of who Jesus was. This was beneath him. We all get that, but I think there was something more. Feet are disgusting and embarrassing. Just think where they have walked and what they have walked through. And I imagine Peter thinking, I'm embarrassed for you to see the dirtiest and messiest parts of my life. The parts I'm ashamed of, the parts I want to hide. And I don't want you to see that part of me. Because what if you see the real me and then stop loving me? I only wanted to make you proud of me. But Jesus insists. He doesn't pull back and he doesn't wince. And in his own way tells Peter, I love you from head to toe. I'm not embarrassed of you or ashamed of you or disappointed in you. Let me in, Peter, to every part of your story, the good and bad, the clean and dirty. I love those dirty feet as much as I love the feet that walked on water. I don't just love the best of you. I love you, all of you. So let me in, let me love you. And so Peter does, and in a way he was closer to Jesus that night than ever before. and loved him more dearly and felt loved more dearly. And that's exactly what Jesus wanted on his last night. If you want to go see where that post is from, it's from @Mr. Dave Butler. But I just love how well he explains he loves all of you. He loves the part of you that doubts, the part of you that's anxious, the part of you that messes up, the parts of you that you don't want him to see, he still loves, because he understands that we are just growing and learning and wants to be there for all of it. So those are my top 5 things that I learned about God and OCD recovery. I would love to hear from you. If you have anything to add or want to share anything, please reach out at Ksenia Claire Coaching on Instagram or Facebook. Or, like I said, I'm going to include a link in the description for this podcast with a link to a consult call that's totally free. So reach out. Please don't hesitate. And I hope you have a beautiful week.